नरेंद्र मोदी जी को मैं भी एक मैसेज देना चाहता हूँ कि हम लोग भी दीवाने हैं, तो अगर जुल्म करना चाहते हैं वो जी भर के करे। मैं तो सिर्फ ये कहूँगा, इधर आ सितमगर तू हुनर आजमा, तुम तीर आजमाओ मैं जिगर आजमा।
नहायत ही बहादुर लीडर हैं। उनकी कश्मीर के लिए अनगिनत कुर्बानियां नजरअंदाज नहीं की जा सकते। उनको टाइगर ऑफ कश्मीर कहते हैं। आज के दिल्ली की अदालत में हुए गैर मुनसिफाना फैसले में यासीन मलिक को ताउम्र कैद की सजा सुनाई गई।
ये अलग बात है कि उससे आप शदीद जख्मी हुए, आंख, चेहरे और दिमाग पर चोटें आ गईं। वाकया क्या था?
अप्रैल 1990 डाउनटाउन श्रीनगर में मैं और मेरे साथी एक मकान में थे। पूरे कश्मीर में कर्फ्यू लग चुका था, तो हम जिस हाइड आउट पे थे तो उस पे BSF बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस का रेड हुआ। तो मैं ऊपर 5वीं मंजिल पे चढ़ा। तो मैंने कोशिश की थी देखने की, क्योंकि डाउनटाउन में मकान साथ साथ होते थे, तो मैं जगह बना रहा था कि कोई मकान है जिस पे मैं छलांग लगाऊं, लेकिन उसमें स्पेस ज्यादा थी, कोई स्पेस नहीं निकल के आ रही थी। फिर आगे सड़क थी, तकरीबन 14-15 फुट की सड़क, और उसके बाद जो है नीचे एक दुकान थी फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे बनी। बीच में हाई टेंशन तारे थी बिजली की। मैं इसको वर्कआउट कर रहा था कि अगर मैं उस पे छलांग लगाऊं तो उस पे मैं नीचे गिरूं फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे, तो मैं बच सकता हूं। लेकिन जो ये हवा में तकरीबन 16-17 फीट की सड़क क्रॉस करनी थी, वो क्रॉस नहीं हो पाई। मैं नीचे गिर गया। तो नीचे जब गिरा तो उसके बाद मुझे पता ही नहीं, मैं कोमा में था, मेरी बॉडी से सारा खून निकल गया था। वो हॉस्पिटल ले गई, उन्होंने वहां डेड बॉडी छोड़ दी। लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ने भी ऐलान किया मेरी डेथ का, और दुनिया में सारी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया ने, क्योंकि हर डॉक्टर का ओपिनियन था कि ये नहीं बच सकता है। बट इट वाज गॉड इज मिरेकल कि मैं बच गया।
लड़कपन में मॉडलिंग
अगर आपने मेरे मुतलिक पढ़ा है, मेरी तंजीम के मुतलिक, हमारा एक वाजिया मौक़िफ़ है, कोई ढका छुपा मौक़िफ़ नहीं है। हम चाहते हैं इंडिपेंडेंट कश्मीर, हम न पाकिस्तान के साथ न हिंदुस्तान। तो मेरी बात सुनिए ना, पूरी बात सुन लीजिए। ये हमारा मौक़िफ़ है, पॉलिटिकल बिलीफ है। साथ ही साथ हम ये कह रहे हैं, जो अभी आपने अब दूसरी बात की, कि ये कश्मीरी लोगों का हक है। वो अगर हिंदुस्तान के साथ जाना चाहते हैं, शौक से जाए जमहूरी तरीके से। पाकिस्तान के साथ जाना चाहे, शौक से जाए जमहूरी तरीके। लेकिन अगर यही कश्मीरी आज़ाद रहना चाहते हैं, तो हिंदुस्तान और पाकिस्तान को इनको ये हक देना चाहिए, अगर जमहूरियत में ये फैसला करें। ये हमारा मौक़िफ़ है।
लेकिन
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate that this gathering is aimed to bring together leaders and thought leaders alike to discuss issues that plague our region and the world, with the hope that this dialogue is meant to offer all of us a chance to open our hearts and minds. I would like to discuss the issue of resolution of the Kashmir dispute and the type of future we want to give the future generations of India, Pakistan and Kashmir. Earlier this month, I was concerned when I heard PPP co-chairman Asif Ali Zardari propose
that the issue of resolving the Kashmir dispute could wait and be left for future generations to deal with. I was further distressed to see this notion welcomed in the media and within the public discourse in India. When two Prime Ministers, Mr. Vajpayee and Mr. Manmohan Singh, have given public commitments to resolve the dispute, what type of a message are you now giving to the youth of Kashmir? I see this as a recipe for disaster. For 60 years, we have already seen this problem passed on to generation after generation, and we have seen this conflict become more deadly and more costly. What has this passing of baton meant? For the 60 years, 3 generations of Kashmir have suffered this conflict and the injustice that it represents. We have seen our nation divided and disputed between India and Pakistan. Kashmiris are the people from whom everything was taken, and still our voice, our aspirations, and are yet to be heard and accepted as legitimate and fair. I cannot describe to you what it is like to be born in a conflict zone in which your future is absolutely uncertain. 3 generations of Kashmir have suffered this in different ways. We have seen our society and our social fabric transformed by the forces of heavy military occupation, state manipulation, and violent conflict. For 60 years, my people have persisted in an epic of struggle and sacrifice to win our dream of independence and to achieve a peaceful and certain future. We have paid a very heavy cost. We have seen our non-violent struggle crushed by violence and its adherents tortured and locked behind the bars for decades. My own generation finally lost faith in the effectiveness of non-violent struggle and felt compelled to pick up the gun in 1988 for the same convictions our parents held. My entire generation got almost entirely wiped out. A Kashmiri funeral became one of the old burying the young. This tragic conflict gave us cruel gifts, thousands of orphans and widows, political prisoners and martyrs' graveyards. While JK put down the gun and returned to a non-violent struggle more than 14 years ago, still the bloodshed and violent state oppression continued. And in the midst of all of this, a new generation of Kashmiri children was born and raised in the boiling cauldron of violent conflict. Today's youth in Kashmir possess an even deeper sense of anger and even more intense sense of injustice than my generation felt 20 years ago. Thousands upon thousands sacrificed their lives. There are thousands of stories. Each one of them could justify a revolution. Mataye lahu kalam छिन गया तो क्या गम है कि खूने दिल में डुबो ली हैं उंगलियां मैंने. The coming generation is closely watching our Gandhian-like non-violent struggle. They are watching ever so closely where our path of seeking negotiation to resolve this dispute will lead. It is heartbreaking that Kashmiri Muslims and Kashmiri Pandits youth have grown up without each other's friendship. I am deeply worried that our culture of coexistence is under permanent threat if we are unable to end our separation soon. The longer this issue gets delayed, the more complicated it will become. Yet now in 2008, we are hearing that we should pass it on to yet another generation to deal with. And what has this passing of baton of the unresolved Kashmir dispute meant for the people of India and Pakistan? For 60 years, 3 generations of India and Pakistan have had to suffer the uncertainty of 4 wars, multiple crises, and the utter waste of resources. This has meant South Asia, home to 1 out of every 5 human beings in the world, has remained divided and unable to fully seize the opportunities of free trade and the free exchange of ideas and talent. The opportunity costs in terms of eradicating ignorance, tolerance, poverty and disease, in terms of pursuing development and in terms of creating harmonious and peaceful societies has been immeasurable. Yet we are hearing statements in 2008 that we should pass on, along with the brand new nuclear arsenal, one of the world's most dangerous unresolved international conflict, to yet another generation. What future do we want to pass on to the next generation of Indians, Pakistanis and Kashmiris? Will the next generation in Kashmir see the sacrifices of Kashmiris, yield them the gift of freedom and lasting peace, or will they continue to suffer the agony and uncertainty of this dispute? What future do we want to pass on to the South Asian region and to the world at large? Do we want to keep the future generation chained to the 20th century by conflict, or do we want to solve this issue once for all, so that our future generations may together seize the open possibilities of 21st century? I must say, with deep and sobering honesty, these are among the most urgent questions we must all be asking ourselves today. In the text of invitation letter from India Today conclave, my attention was drawn to the fact that India has predominantly youthful population. When I looked into this a bit deeper, I was amazed to learn that India and Pakistan have two of the youngest populations in the world. The various projections show that our region will be getting even younger up until 2050. Many experts see this as a great asset and talk of a demographic dividend, but I say that this is as much a challenge as an opportunity. It will all depend on whether the future generations can grow up in an atmosphere of peace and justice, one where all our energies can focus on the challenge of equipping the new generations for success. We must all think deeper about the shift towards more youthful populations and what the consequences will be if we pass on a conflict like Kashmir dispute to increasingly younger population in a region plagued by inequality, intolerance, terrorism, poverty and disease. दुनिया की महफिलों से उकता गया हूँ या रब, क्या लुत्फ अंजुमन का जब दिल ही बुझ गया हो।